ADN, cellules, chromosomes. J'aurais bien besoin d'une petite piqûre de rappel, moi.
Ok, reprenons depuis le début. Notre corps est formé d'environ 37 000 milliards de cellules. C'est près de 4 000 fois la population mondiale. Au sein de chacune de ces cellules eucaryotes, un noyau renferme l'ensemble de nos caractères héréditaires. C'est ce qu'on appelle le génome. Chez les humains, ce génome est formé de 46 bâtonnets, les chromosomes. Ils sont classés en 23 paires, la moitié provenant de la mère et l'autre moitié du père.
C'est noté. Mais c'est quoi exactement ces chromosomes?
Ces chromosomes sont formés d'une longue chaîne d'acides désoxyribonucléiques, le fameux ADN. Allez, zoomons un peu plus. L'ADN est constitué de 4 petites molécules différentes, les bases. Elles s'assemblent 2 par 2. La thymine T avec l'adénine A et la cytosine C avec la guanine G. Ces bases s'enchaînent les unes après les autres et forment une très longue suite de lettres que l'on appelle des séquences.
J'ai compris. Et ce sont ces séquences qui me différencient des autres humains?
Exactement. Certaines séquences représentent les gènes. Cette séquence, par exemple, peut être responsable de la forme de nos oreilles, ou celle-ci encore de notre groupe sanguin. Et un même gène peut s'écrire de différentes façons. C'est cette variabilité qui nous caractérise et nous rend uniques. Mais parfois, des anomalies se glissent dans ces séquences et provoquent des maladies génétiques.
Mais si je comprends bien, avec l'étude de mon ADN, vous pourrez tout connaître de moi?
Pas tout à fait. Déchiffrer un génome apporte énormément d'informations sur un individu. Mais cela ne suffit pas à comprendre tout le fonctionnement de son corps.
Ah, mais qu'est-ce qu'il faudrait faire de plus alors?
En plus de nos gènes, l'environnement. Notre alimentation influence aussi le fonctionnement de notre organisme. Et ce n'est pas tout. Des centaines de milliards de bactéries colonisent notre corps. Notre peau, notre bouche ou nos intestins. Ces petites bactéries agissent aussi sur l'activité de nos cellules. Le métagénome que nous hébergeons...
Le méta quoi?
Le métagénome. Cela correspond à l'ADN de ces bactéries. Certaines maladies, comme le diabète ou l'obésité, sont influencées par notre génome et par celui de ces bactéries qui nous habitent. Dans les années...
To attempt to put an African name on our past, we have to use the 2 strands of DNA that are passed down to us unchanged. The DNA in a man's Y chromosome and the mitochondrial DNA that both men and women inherit from their mother. Scientists run these signatures through databases of DNA samples collected from contemporary Africans. A match means that we have found a distant cousin. Unfortunately, however, this is still an emerging science, and DNA tests don't always produce clear results, as Dr. Fatima Jackson explains.
The truth is that sometimes you can't put Humpty Dumpty all together again, that there are always going to be some gaps. And so not every African American is going to be able to reconstruct all the way back to Africa.
Some of the lineages will be rather ambiguous. They'll be very common. It'll be very hard to sort of localize to a particular region or even ethnic group.
Now, your results are all over the map. We couldn't find an exact match, but all these are close and are all possibilities.
Right.
You can pick from, you can identify with these people from Guinea-Bissau and the Kasanga people, or you could identify with people from Mali. I mean, it could be either one that we don't know. But we know it has to be one of these tribes because this is where our ancestors came from. Okay?
Aha!
At other times, though, these African DNA matches are so specific and unique and make such historical sense that we can at long last glimpse the origins of our own black ancestors. Here are the results. You, on your daddy's side, most probably are descendant, an exact match from the Udemy people from northern Cameroon. And that is your exact tribal Y DNA match.
Boy, this is fascinating, man. It's like I've lived to see the future. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, me too. It's
You know what I mean?
exciting.
Like-
Nobody even dreamed. Alex Haley couldn't imagine.
It's like
You share maternal genetic ancestry with the Tikar people in Cameroon.
Very interesting. I thought that it might be to Ghana, because the Ghanaians thought that sort of facially I looked like maybe I'd been some mixture of Ashanti and European.
That was about the time Ghana applied for $1 billion loan from George Bush, wasn't it?
It makes me want to go to Cameroon, meet my people. Yes.
You share ancestry with the Benga people in the modern country of Gabon. That means your Kunta Kinte ancestor came from right there.
Wow, get out of here. I have to Google Gabon immediately and see what's there.
Sultans concluded, you are descended from the Luba people.
Fascinating. I'll have to find out as much as I can about them.
Cameroon.
So if I were you, I'd get on the plane and I'd go to Cameroon.
Go to Cameroon. That's definite.
And this, my friend, is where most probably you're descended on your mother's side.
Niger. I can't translate it into gold or silver.
His mother's side, you are Mende.
I know this is so. There's so many surprises here, but this one is not a surprise.
And among the Tikar people in Cameroon.
Oh my goodness, the Bongo. I can't believe it.
And it's an area, Q, you ready for this? It's an area that's famous for its music and artistic genius.
You're kidding.
No.
I can't believe it, man. I would have never guessed that. Wow.
And then for Sarah Lightfoot, we got 4 out of 5 matches to a person who is Balanta and one who is Mandingo.
And they are in the Republic of Guinea-Bissau.
Any reactions?
This makes me want to go there tomorrow. That's my reaction.
It does?
Yes, yes. Absolutely.
His paternal lineage appears to be common among the Igbo in Nigeria.
I thought so.
You thought so?
I thought so.
What made you think so?
Well, my uncle had alluded to thinking that the ancestors that came over on the boat through family traditions and conversations were originally Igbo and from Nigeria on my father's.
This leaves 3 remaining guests. Of them, Dr. Ben Carson has the greatest number of exact mitochondrial matches. Their spread can be best explained by the Bantu migration and the slave trading activities of one of Central Africa's most powerful empires.
His ancestors were probably a marginal subject of the Lunda Empire. It's probably the easiest way of describing his ethnicity.
That's fantastic. Whoopi Goldberg, there are exact hits with Papel people from Guinea-Bissau and the Bayota people from Guinea-Bissau. It's not much we go at.
These 2 people live next door to each other. They share lots and lots of ancestry. Very common.
That's very nice. But of all of our results, it was Chris Tucker's where history and genetics most closely overlapped.
Come on, man, tell me. This is what we found.
Chris Tucker's Y chromosome is very interesting. It's a very strong match we're finding. In fact, an identical match with the Mbundu people in Angola. And in terms of the most recent common ancestry, it appears to be within the last 8 generations.
How likely is it historically that this 100% match is accurate?
Well, it's very likely.
I would say like a Portuguese absolutamente. That means absolutely, you know, it's absolutely.
Whoa! That's something. That's something.
But we can tell you even more about your ancestors than you'd ever dream. But we'd like to do that, Chris, on the ground, as it were. We'd like to take you to Angola. Would you go with us?
I would love to go. Yes. Yes.
Located on the Atlantic coast of Central Africa, Angola is one of the continent's most fascinating countries. Conquered by the Portuguese in the late 16th century, Angola remained a colony until 1975. Then it was torn apart by 27 years of civil war. Today, the country is finally at peace, it's rebuilding, and it's eager to reconnect with the rest of the world. What's it mean to you to think that your people could have come from here?
It's incredible. And being here, you know, still is like unbelievable. I'm like still just taking it all in.
Chris is not the only African American to have roots here. The research of the historian, Dr. David Eltis, suggests that 1 out of every 4 slaves who reached the United States came from the Congo-Angola region. To begin to understand what they endured, we're driving 1 hour south of Angola's capital, Luanda. So, Chris, this was the house of a slave trader, which now the country's turned into their National Slave Museum, and we're going to meet the director. Hello, how are you?
Hello. Fine.
I'm Henry Louis Gates. This is Chris Tucker.
How you doing? Prazer. Nice to meet you.
We're all aware of the dreadful horrors of the Middle Passage, but according to Dr. Amaral Gorgel, a slave's suffering began long before that.
Tinham tratamentos horríveis. Muitos acabavam por morrer ao longo da caminhada. Iam à força, iam tirar o navio à força, e outros preferiam suicidar-se do que ir. Esses são grilhetas para aprisionar os escravos.
How do they tighten it up? They squeeze this up?
How did they
I know. They put this on afterwards. Just take this lock off and slide that out, and you put your hands in first.
Put your hand in there and
slide
in. But man, look how tight your hands would have been in there.
Yeah.
One of the most chilling aspects of this museum, however, is that it was once a chapel, a reminder that slavery was once seen as being good for an African soul.
Portanto, os escravos entravam por aí assim naquela porta.
Over there.
E vinham. O padre recebia-os, por sua vez.
So they would kneel there?
Sim.
The slaves would come in the door, they would kneel in front of the crucifix.
E passavam por aí assim, vinham.
So we march over.
A capela.
Oh, I see, the holy water.
Pia batismal.
So they were brought in here and baptized.
Sim. Curvava bocadinho, água na cabeça e fazia
put water on his head and make the sign of the cross.
Sua vez, saíam.
They would bless them and then take the boats were out here?
Yes. Yes.
Chris, they would bless you before they sent you to your death.
What's wrong?
Thank you. Obrigado. Obrigado.
Thank you. Obrigado.
Thank you, brother. Again, how could this place so peaceful and calm? This was the site of the bloodiest industry and trade in human history, African slave trade. I don't think that I could have made it from the interior to here, the 2 or 3 month walking journey. I mean, think about that. Before you even got on this torture chamber they called a slave ship. Our ancestors who showed up in the New World were some strong people, man. Because they had survived the internal march from the time they were captured, and then survived the god-awful Middle Passage across the Atlantic Ocean. This is a powerful start, but I want to go further back in time to when Chris's ancestor was first enslaved. Chris, this is the National Historical Archive, and this is where they keep some of the records concerning the slave trade. Wow, these are archives, all right. Gee, look at this, Chris. Look how old these records are, man.
Goodness.
Because it was a commercial venture. They, wrote down so many slaves, captured, sold, how much they cost, everything. Boy, I mean, look at all these records. A lot of slaves.
Somewhere in there, my great granddaddy.
Yep, probably. Here at the archive, we're meeting its director, the historian Dr. Rosa Cruz e Silva. These are some of the slave records that you keep in the archive?
Exatamente. Portanto, temos aqui o nome da pessoa ou da empresa digamos assim,
look,
que
it's-
contrata, que
Yeah,
faz...
this is the names of the actual African slaves that were taken into slavery. I've never seen that before, because usually in these records, often they would just not even list the African names. It would just say 19 slaves from Angola. But here, they list the actual names of the people.
Exatamente.
That's quite
Nós
simple.
podemos encontrar nomes africanos, o que significa que estas pessoas ainda não tinham sido batizadas.
So a name like Joaquin, he'd been baptized.
Yes.
Yes, but a name like Kuyambo is an African name.
Yes.
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
Unfortunately, these records can't help us find Chris's ancestor. We're going to need the doctor's knowledge of Angolan history.
Help me understand how his ancestor in Mbundu ended up in the United States. How?
Okay.
She tells us that the answer may lie in a war waged in the early 1700s between Portuguese forces who colonized the country and the African kingdom of Matamba, which was led by a famous queen named Veronica.
O reino da Matamba resiste à ocupação portuguesa durante muito tempo. A rainha Vitória se esforçou com seu exército para expulsar os portugueses. Não tendo conseguido isso, obviamente que os escravos ou a população desse reino acaba por ser transformada em escravos para ir para a América.
Your ancestors, she's saying, they fought. She fought with this queen, Veronica, who was tough and strong. But eventually, she lost.
Yes.
And when she lost, probably, the doctor's saying, your ancestor was then captured into slavery.
To visit the place where those events took place, Chris and I fly east to where the kingdom of Matamba once lay. For Chris's ancestor, walking in chains, the agonizing journey to the coast would have taken over a month. Retracing his steps takes us less than an hour. We arrive at the region's capital, Melange, a city devastated by the recent civil war.
Boy, it looked like it was bombed, man. Yeah, man. This was the site of... They had a huge battle here. Yeah. 1997. And the Mbundu fiercely resisted.
That battle fits within a long tradition of resistance, dating all the way back to the early 1700s, when people here fought the Portuguese forces who were trying to subdue them. To complete the circle that was broken when they lost this war, and their sons and daughters were shipped into slavery, Chris and I drive 1 hour deep into the bush to visit one of the oldest villages in the area. We're met by the village elder, Vicente João Manuel.
Soba Kisako. This is Chris Tucker. I'm Henry Gates. Hello. Hello. Do your people ever talk about people who were sent away as slaves to the New World?
Na escravatura a viver ali no Santo Tomé e não conseguiu mais voltar. E por isso ali ficou só aí a nossa família. E nós não temos conhecimento.
They just disappeared. How does it feel to have one of the lost members of your village hundreds of years ago, his descendant, back?
Ficou alegre de ver a minha família.
Said he's happy to see you back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
Viva Camaradinho!
My people! Come on, sweethearts. Come on. Y'all come with us.
Chris, I think we got some fans.
Yeah, these are my people.
We can't say for sure that this is where Chris's ancestor came from. But here, under the village's sacred tree, is the perfect place for a homecoming.
I've seen the real African. got a wealth of knowledge. It was all so different. People were so great, and I just fell in love with it. It's wisdom in knowing where you're from, and I know now. This is the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Sitting here with Chris, watching how warmly the Angolans welcome him back, I have to confess that I am a little envious. And I'm envious of all my guests who have managed to reconnect to their African ancestors.
Bonjour à tous les Bantous partout où vous êtes, que le Tout-Puissant bénisse son peuple avec abondance. Les Bantous qui sont allés en captivité et les Bantous qui sont au-delà du fleuve de couche. Donc nous allons voir un certain nombre de choses aujourd'hui, parler de nos frères qui sont allés en captivité. Parce que beaucoup ne le savent pas, les Bantous sont aux quatre coins. Les Bakongo qui sont allés en captivité constituent la tribu de Juda. Nous l'avons montré dans les vidéos précédentes. Donc aujourd'hui nous allons essayer de répertorier ces Bantous partout où ils sont. Parce que beaucoup de gens connaissent, dans la dernière vidéo que nous avons publiée, ils connaissent déjà les Bakongo qui sont allés en captivité dans les Antilles, dans les trois Amériques, notamment l'Amérique du Sud, l'Amérique du Nord et l'Amérique centrale. Donc nous allons aussi parler d'eux, mais on va, parce qu'on a déjà parlé d'eux, on va aussi se focaliser en ce qui concerne les Bantous qui sont allés en captivité, l'esclavage des Bantous de l'Afrique de l'Est, razzias qui ont été faits en Afrique de l'Est, notamment au Mozambique, dans l'île du Zanzibar, et qui fait partie de la Tanzanie. Donc on va voir un peu tous ces esclaves là où ils sont partis. On va essayer de tracer leur présence dans le Moyen-Orient et jusqu'à même en Inde. Donc il faut savoir que l'esclavage musulman a commencé en 650 après Jésus-Christ et ça a terminé en 1920. Selon certains historiens, il y a d'autres références qui sont données par d'autres historiens. Donc nous allons essayer de nous souvenir de nos frères là. Donc pour l'instant, ce que nous allons faire, nous allons nous concentrer un petit peu avec les leaders Congo qui sont sortis de cet esclavage et les congophones qui existent encore dans ces pays de l'Amérique. Ok, donc première écriture, ce qu'il faut savoir, c'est dans cet esclavage, les Bantous ont connu plusieurs esclavages. Ils n'ont pas été seuls à connaître l'esclavage. Selon la Bible, ils ont toujours été partis en esclavage avec les fils de Cham. Et quand vous allez dans Ésaïe chapitre 20, on vous parle l'expérience qu'ont connue les fils de Cham et les tribus du Nord. Les tribus du Nord d'Isolélé, qui sont allés en captivité avec les Couchites, avec les Égyptiens. Donc ça c'est l'esclavage, la captivité assyrienne. Et puis il y a eu la captivité perse. On a vu qu'au retour de Néhémie, tout ça comme ça, il y avait des Bantous qui ramenaient des esclaves avec des femmes de Cham. Donc on les triait, ceux qui avaient les femmes étrangères, on les rejetait, et ceux qui n'avaient pas pris des femmes étrangères, on les acceptait. Donc il y avait un tri qui se faisait toujours. Donc pour l'instant, ce n'est pas le sujet. Le sujet aujourd'hui, c'est de parler des Bantous, des captifs Bantous, partout où ils sont. Donc dans la vidéo précédente, on a vu que les Bantous, les esclaves Bantous étaient congophones. Et on va essayer de suivre leurs traces, de savoir là où ils sont. Bon, aujourd'hui, ce qu'on va voir, on va voir d'abord l'histoire du Solélé, comment s'est développée l'histoire du Solélé, et puis on va aller petit à petit vous montrer ensuite les leaders esclaves qui ont gardé leur nom congophone, parce qu'il y a d'autres qui n'ont pas gardé leur nom, qui ont pris le nom de l'oppresseur. Mais on va essayer de voir ceux qui ont gardé leur nom et ceux qui ont parlé de leur origine, l'origine Congo, qui n'ont pas caché leur origine Congo, qui étaient fiers de leur origine Congo. On va essayer de les répertorier dans cette vidéo.